This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening. I'm going to call to order the Selectmen's meeting of January 18th, 2024. I'm going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so you can all hear me. So we have a brief agenda tonight. We have our budget, and that's pretty much it. That's all we got. So we're going to start right out with Tim.
Okay, great. In your packets, you have a new budget as of 1/18 that reflects the current expenditures through today for 2023, which you can see in the 23 actual column, as well as the Budget Committee last night voted on all the rest of the components of the budget that they had not previously voted on, and arrived at a figure of $5,290,963 before the Sewer Commission, and a total operating budget, including the Sewer Commission, of $6,748,677. It represents an increase of 3.99%. So this evening, the plan was to go through the budget, discuss some of the changes that were discussed last night at the Budget Committee, and then hopefully have the board vote this evening to approve a Board of Selectmen voted budget in preparation for the public hearing that the Budget Committee will be holding on the 31st. So a couple of changes in the budget. On page 2, you'll notice under salary town administrator, that was set. It was increased to 115 to reflect the new hire. In addition, the next line, the salary support staff, that was also increased by about $9,000 in discussing with the new town administrator some of his plans for the year. He wanted to add more money into that line for anticipated needs down at, later on in the year. So in any event, those were the two primary changes there. The one thing that I am somewhat concerned about is the legal expense in the administrative budget. The Budget Committee had voted on $20,000, and yet we'll be in a reval year, number one. And then also, just even in your payables tonight, I believe we have about $7,000 of legal expense just from December. So as you know, it can add up quickly. So I'm just concerned that may not be, that's not enough for general legal. So the original department request was $25,000. The Budget Committee voted $20,000. And then moving on, all the other budgets were voted on. In the land use budget, I believe I had previously mentioned that economic development, they had reduced that sum from a request of $7,500 down to $2,300. And the purpose of that line was for beautification, flags, flowers, holiday decorations. And then in the highway public works department, the director position was lowered from 85 down to 80 in discussions with the town administrator. And there were no changes to the police department budget. It was discussed last night, a proposal to remove the open patrol officer, and that did not pass. So the Budget Committee passed the police budget as presented. In culture and recreation, the line on page 13, about the fourth line down where it says Park Maintenance Island, there was a hydrology study originally budgeted for that for that line at $25,000, which was roughly 22,000 for the study and then about 3,000 for park maintenance. That has been our historical amount that we've spent for electricity, for mowing, and various other things at the island park itself. So in looking at that line, this was one area where we felt that we could shift that hydrological study to the capital reserve fund and have the capital reserve fund pay for that, because there also seems to be some issue with whether we needed more quotes for that. As you may recall, Selectman Dawson had some other consultants that she wanted the town administrator to get quotes from. So in any event, that's probably a prudent thing to do, and the department request reflects the reduction of that hydrological study, as does the budget committee voted column. And then the other change that occurred, there was a lot of discussion about Hall Memorial Library and the wages at Hall Memorial Library, and the budget committee had asked me to do an analysis of the wages, which also the director did, and they were largely the same. And the budget committee added some money for a 3% increase, and that's on page 13. So about the sixth line down, right after Park Maintenance Island, you'll see the library's original request was 154, 148, and the budget committee voted 141, 393, which was the 23 level budget plus 3% for wage increases and taxes. And those, and one last thing in the highway budget, for Public Works recycling, the new hire for the recycling center, given the time frame of when we're going to receive the baler and when the building is going to be ready and everything else, it seemed to be prudent to budget that position for half the year. So starting in July, which is probably much more reasonable in terms of budgeted wages. And that, as they say, is that. In addition to the budget, once we go through that, I have also on page 14 the estimated revenues, and I'm estimating slightly reduced municipal revenues, and you'll see the sewer commission revenue up considerably. But again, that's a pass-through, so it shows on our expense area, and it also shows on our revenue the same amount. And then after that, you'll see the recommendations for warrant articles for 2024 and what the tax rate impact is on those warrant articles, and then also an estimated tax rate based on our 23 equalized value. So would you like to go through the budget in more detail, or any questions on what I've brought forward so far?
Last year, we budgeted for a mechanic, which we won't have this year. So has that money been moved over to repairs?
So
We still need these things done.
right, so because the technician was combined with the director position, the total, the original budget for 24 would have been about 101,000 for both the technician and director activities. And the new director activity without the technician is at 80,000. There was some money put into vehicle maintenance lines for both for the vehicle maintenance for the PD as well as for Public Works.
I'm sure we'll find money somewhere in the budget if it comes to that.
Right, right. And some of the repairs that were needed immediately were, we were able to, get the vehicle into service in 23, and it was charged to 23. So.
Excellent.
If there are no questions on the budget itself, would you like me just to go over some of the issues with the warrant articles before you start voting?
Tim, I had a question on revenues.
Yes.
Where does it show up when the sewer department reimburses the town for the work they do?
So that would show under highway income. So it's about the sixth line up from the bottom.
Yeah, so miscellaneous and recycling.
Right. So there are two revenue categories that are combined in this particular one here, but we keep those items separate in the rest of our revenue reports, so that we know the breakdown between what they're collecting down there and also what is a recycling revenue. There hasn't been much activity in terms of doing work for the sewer department, from my recollection, in the last probably year. But we have had that before, where they've been working on the risers and that sort
Yeah,
of thing.
that's usually the.
Yep,
thing.
and we've charged that.
Yeah, so that would have been, the previous year there was much.
Right, and what we do is we add that to their quarterly bill, and then that's credited to Public Works revenue once received.
Parking revenue is really down on the PD. Now, let's see. We had $4,500 as parking revenue
Well,
in 23.
budgeted. So we actually received $1,410 in parking revenue.
I wonder where
Is
the
that-
4,500 came from.
I think I think there was a year where we did have elevated revenues for parking. I think that,
We probably get the stickers, and I changed
Yeah.
everything when we did the ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
I got the stickers. A lot of signups. I know one year we had over 120 stickers that we had sold. I didn't go past, I would say.
so that's, as you can see, that's why I've estimated, much lower revenue for that. And in general, I've estimated a lower overall revenue, municipal revenue, of about $56,000. The part of the issue is that we're not going to be able to bill the school for as much as we would. You'll see the SRO revenue is a little less because we can only bill for the time that the SRO is in position, and we haven't had a full-time SRO in the schools during this time. So up until recently with the new hire. So that's, that will go back up in the following year. There are other things too. It was a little more conservative with the short-term interest, since the conventional wisdom says, it's all going to be coming down. I'm not convinced of this as yet, but if we start seeing lower rates in March and or through the summer, I backed off our short-term interest revenues slightly. And then you'll see that there is increased revenue for highway and recycling, anticipating that once we're up and running with the recycling center, we'll be able to, bale and sell that material. Outside of that, it's been it's never easy estimating these revenues. But we've been pretty fortunate in years past. So
Now, the other thing I've noticed, I'm looking in here under land use professional consulting. We've seen a lot of stuff come through from Keach and Nordstrom,
right,
as well as consulting to do the inspections at the
preserve.
preserve.
Yep.
Thanks, Tim. But I see that we didn't pay a penny for it under this line.
Well, right.
Where is that?
So that money, the land use coordinator collects money from the projects for third-party review. So for our Keach Nordstrom review. So we keep track of the monies that we receive, and before any work is authorized, we make sure that we have money on account from the client or the project in order to pay for the engineering reviews that are ordered by the town. So we don't have to budget for that. The purpose of that particular line, to my understanding, was that if we needed to order something over and above what the project was either willing to pay for or had money to pay for, that we would have to have some budget in order to affect whatever type of study or review or anything else.
So my concern would be is that if Keach and Nordstrom bills us and we're receiving income and it's not shown on this budget anymore, is it shown as an income and an outgo?
It's not, because it's not our money.
And
So in other words,
usually, and the way I understand it, the way I understand it is that anytime we spend money, we have to declare it and show the income and the outgo.
so
Is there like a cookie jar full of money and we're handing it, or is it on paper somewhere?
So it is on paper. So I keep statements and provide the statements to the projects when necessary. So they put money on account. So let's say U-Haul had $10,000 on account.
Mhm.
So they give us a check and it goes into a separate fund that keeps track of, their money. And then that money that is expended is coming out of their money allocated for the engineering reviews. And the engineering reviews are only authorized if we have money on account sufficient to cover it. So there's never an opportunity where we wouldn't have enough money to cover that expense, but it is actually charged to that other fund and charged to that project. So even though you're authorizing the payment, it is recognizing that it is a third-party money that they've authorized to be used for engineering work. So is that, and then I keep track of all the statements for all the different projects. We have 9 projects that have balances. And we're very careful to make sure that we get money up front before anything is authorized.
So we didn't spend any on any other consulting except for what was paid for?
Right. So, but if the planning board, so this would be a case where, say, the planning board decided that you're not satisfied with something that the project paid for and you want something else, outside of the scope or something like that, there would be money for the planning board to be able to hire someone, and that's where this would be paid from.
I've watched some of the stuff on the library and, and some of that, the back and forth, a very difficult thing. We all love libraries, and
Right.
so it's hard to,
Yeah, as you're aware, the library has talked to the board about, the budget, and they have come to, they did go back to the budget committee and talk to the budget committee again, and I would expect that they would be maybe at the public hearing, certainly at town meeting, making the case for for their increase. Northfield did pass it as requested. So, the request from the library was passed by the Northfield Budget Committee.
And it's a 50-50 split.
Yes, it historically has been 50-50 split. Yep.
That's all I can think of for now.
So if we could, let me take you over to page 15, which are the suggested warrant articles. So these are the moneyed warrant articles that we have each year. Roads, streets, bridges, sidewalks, capital reserve. There's currently a balance of 23,742 in that. And part of the reason for the low balance, and if you've looked at my reports over the last month, I've brought forward the issue that without funding this through the warrant article, we're going to have to budget in the town budget an additional $15,379. There's a second course from the paving contractor that's going to be done in the spring, which is $39,040. So there won't be enough money in the capital reserve without being funded at town meeting. My understanding was because we added to the original road plan for this last year, it used up more money. Plus we did the downtown sidewalk and parking lot and all that. So there were a lot of projects this past year. So it's gotten to a precipitously low point. Highway equipment capital reserve. There's a 10-year plan that supports increasing the sum. The international needs to be replaced, and that's a lot of money. So I don't have the plan with me, but last year we were much lower, and we're going to have to look at about 45,000 for the next few years to be able to get that vehicle. And even then, we may have to shift around some of the plan so that depending upon the cost and whether it's new or used, that sort of thing. So that's highway equipment. So the road, streets, bridges at $90,000 is 14 cents on the tax rate. Highway equipment capital reserve funding that is 7 cents. The building infrastructure capital reserve, the new one that we started last year, that's 3 cents at $20,000. And you can see the balances that we have over on the right-hand side as of 12/31. The Island Preservation and Improvement Capital Reserve Fund, looking at putting $10,000 into that, and we currently have a balance of $87,140. The Reval Fund has a balance of $69,000. It's a little short of the increase from Avatar. But I think we're going to be able to carry the small increase through the operating budget. We'll overspend that slightly, but looking at putting another 9,000 into that for the next 5-year reval. Improving, maintaining lakes. The Conservation Commission requested that we put in an additional 5,000. There is a slightly higher balance right now than what shows on this report. There was a check that was authorized by the Conservation Commission, but has not been cashed by the milfoil people. And so I did remove that, anticipating that to be cash, but the actual 12/31 balance was about $2,277 higher. The Senior Center EFT Expendable Trust Fund. In talking with the chair of the Senior Center Executive Committee, she recommended that we not fund that this year, that we have sufficient money in that, which has $9,647. And then the collective bargaining agreement, the wage increases, the first year cost is $53,158 or 8 cents on the tax rate. All told, all the moneyed warrant articles total up to $232,158 or 36 cents on the tax rate. Now that is based on our adjusted equalized value for 2023, which was done in November. And that was $639,250,722. We have an unassigned fund balance as of the end of 22 of $1,161,817. As I've said before, I'm anticipating that we'll be adding to that at least 250,000 by the time we're done with the audit. And so if you are to look at the tax rate, so at the bottom of page 15, the appropriation, including all warrant articles and everything, if it were to pass from the Budget Committee's approved number, which is on that first page, including the Sewer Commission, that amounts to $6,980,835, less our estimated revenues of $2,727,808, leaves a net tax effort before adjustments for, say, veterans tax credit and overlay and that sort of thing, leaves a net effort of $4,253,027, and that equates to a $6.65 rate for the municipality, for the town. And that's town only. That's not school, fire, county, so on and so forth.
Do you know if the Preserve and U-Haul will be coming online for getting their being fully taxed next year?
I don't. I think there is some coming on, but as we had an adjustment down in our value this last November, and I don't know that it's going to make up that large a portion. I think it's going to depend upon completeness as of April 1st, and I just really don't know.
So if it's completed August, is it reevaluated at that point? They come up and reevaluate the...
I would think so, but I think, and I'm not quite clear on the timing, but I think it's based on the value at, well, let me think about that. It would be picked up. It would be picked up.
Because it's new construction.
Right. It would be picked up.
I wasn't sure if they get a buy for 3 years or
No.
Yeah.
But I am concerned about, in general, the issue that I've talked to the board about before, which is the commercial and residential factor. Right. So, where we're looking at a ratio of about 55%, meaning that a house will almost double if everything else were equal in terms of value to bring us up to 100% with the market per the state's calculations. The same is not true for commercial properties. So commercial properties have other factors. They go by commercial appraisals, as you know. They go by income calculations. There are different ways of determining the value of commercial properties. Needless to say, it's highly unlikely to assume that all the commercial properties in town enjoyed the same measure of growth in terms of value as did the residential properties. So what that means is when you look at roughly a 50-50 split for 23, so you have 50% of our equalized value in commercial, 50% in residential. If you look at the effect going into 24 with a reval, where the residential is valued so much higher and commercial doesn't keep the same pace, it effectively shifts some of that tax burden onto the residential properties. So it's going to be a very challenging year. And as you may recall, when we were doing tax rate setting for 23, I requested the board hold back money so that we had much more money to apply to this anomaly for 24, because it is an anomaly. It is something that's not going to happen all the time. And this is one of the reasons why I'm concerned with our having a sufficient amount of legal expense in the budget, because it's not just attorneys that we have to pay. It's also the professional services for commercial appraisals and depositions and, that sort of thing. So Whether that hits early 24, late 24, I think reducing that line I think we will overexpend it. Let me put it that way. If it were left where it is. So.
Tim, can you refresh my memory? The money that we allocated for the Academy Street project, did we encumber that? Have we?
We did not,
Okay.
no.
Then I think I'll just remind us as the board that that's something that we need to take a look at, because it may not be feasible in the way that we had mapped it out before.
Right. I think a lot was dependent upon the plan that the former director had in place,
Correct.
and the cost associated with that, because it seemed to be much less than the original quotes that we were getting for that road.
Correct.
So we may be back to other.
Sorry about
calculations.
that.
Yeah.
But just a reminder, I've driven it a couple times this week and it reminded me to ask.
Thanks
So.
for
Yeah.
reminding me. No, thanks for reminding me. The other thing, Tim, so we have our reval year, and I mean, it's not directly related to our budget, but sort of is to taxpayers. When will that hit us on our school formula? Is that next year?
Right. So it's a
there's that
year
lag.
behind. Right.
Yeah.
So for the school, we won't see that EV change until the next year. But the state, when the Department of Education takes the 3 towns data, they equalize it at the DOE before it goes into a tax rate for us. So they will still equalize our current figure, even though it's a year in arrears. They'll still look at that and equalize it, and so I think the good news is that there's a warrant article with this for the school formula, as Selectman Ruggles, who served on the committee, and I were aware that we're going to start to shift that more to the membership and attendance, so that each year there's going to be a 1% shift between the current ratio of 75-25 or 70-30 to 75-25. So
Ultimately, after 5 years.
after 5 years,
Don't get everyone
right.
excited.
1% a year, right?
Yeah,
1% a year.
Or
So
upset.
it's
Upset, correct.
it's a gradual change, but what it recognizes is that the costs that drive the school are in the students that attend the school, which is pretty simple. It doesn't have much to do with equalized value. It has to do with who's showing up at the door in the morning and wanting an education. So,
And that was Selectman Ruggles, and I believe you were on the budget committee too?
yes,
So
Yep.
I want to thank you guys for doing that this year. I did it once, and
yeah,
Thank you. Yeah.
thanks, that was.
There was
big.
a lot. I mean, I'll give, right, Tim was he was the assistant chair or vice chair, and Nina Gardner from Samrington did a wonderful job guiding that group.
Yeah.
So, and
it's a good group.
Yeah, and being very thoughtful about it. So it was
Nina has a lot of experience.
correct.
She does.
Yeah.
Yep. So in any case,
Good.
so are you ready to vote? The
Think you could, Joe, you got any other questions? Or
I
stuff?
have no other questions really. There's some of it I don't like, but I'll get to vote come town meeting. I'm just a little bit hesitant about voting on the selectmen's budget without 2 of the selectmen here.
right. Yeah.
Selectman Constantino apparently is on the line over here. And Catherine is not. Of course, Catherine's on the budget committee, so she's already voted once, but even so.
Right. Well, so, it could wait until you have a full board. Absolutely. The budget committee, my plan was to show this posted. I also have to get it in the MS7 format for the state. And that's what ultimately the budget committee has to sign off on after they've held their public hearing and if there are no changes to the budget. So And each one of those requires filling in a column that says Budget Committee recommended, Selectmen recommended. And if you don't have a Selectman recommended, then you have to show the variance between the Budget Committee and the Selectmen. So there'd be a lot of big numbers in there. So I would, if that were the case, if you want to wait until next week, then I would just have to process that after next week, and we could put up this budget on the website so that people could be reviewing it
Yeah,
for that
I think
purpose.
that's a great idea, because like I said, I'd just soon have all members here.
And that
Right.
doesn't affect our schedule for our public hearing because we still have time till February.
Well, so the Budget Committee will be holding the budget public hearing on the 31st. So
You have to be
and
next Thursday then.
you would have to not only vote on the budget, but also decide on the warrant articles at the same time, because the Budget Committee would need the warrant articles to be able to vote on on the 31st. It was getting tight.
Long night on next
Right.
Thursday. After a long night on Tuesday. Budget
And Monday.
and Monday, and as well as you're going to be doing budget on Wednesday.
And I have to drive to Logan Airport at 2:30 in the morning on Friday morning to fly to North Carolina. So
Outstanding. It's going to be a busy week next week.
I might as well just not
So
sleep.
Get
Just
your
sleep on the
sleep
flight.
in this weekend.
So
I,
I will. The one area that this will not come as a surprise to members of the board, where I will continue to struggle in terms of our funding is us continuing to increase our funding to the Pines when we are decreasing the recorded use. I call it recorded use because the numbers that they have given us in terms of the programs where they chart who is coming and who is attending from each town. Again, from last year when I was on the budget committee, we had in those recorded use events, Tilton was about 29% of the participation numbers. And this year it's dropped to 23%. Yet we continue to increase funding. And as I've said before, for me, when we talk about the outside agencies piece, that's the one sort of rub for me, where I think I don't know if I could vote yes on the outside agencies because we continue to do that. We get another 3% up this year, but our participation in the Pines programs, which again, I've acknowledged there's great programming over there, and there's programming where they don't chart who's coming from each municipality. But when you look at the ones, and a lot of these have a fee associated with it as well. That to me, it's we're paying for a lot of folks outside of our municipality with that programming.
I'd like to see an equal valuation type scenario for the Pines as well.
Yeah,
Quite frankly.
Yeah, I don't know if we could, if we should, I don't know if we should pull, very honestly, I don't know if we should pull that carpet out because there's not going to be a lot of carpet left. There's going to be a bath mat. So I think sort of adjusting and working with the Pines in terms of, whether we advertise to get our numbers up from there, or it's just a case of where we look at it and we sort of scale back to something that works a little bit better for us, because I think some of that money could be allocated to other spots and other places, or obviously kicked back overall and not used.
Part of the budget committee discussion was one of the members had researched some of the fees that they charge for, say, after school, when the bus would drop off kids and then parents come, a couple hours later, and checked into what other facilities charge. And they felt as though it was way low, somewhere around a quarter to a third of the cost of other after-school programs. So there was some concern about that, and there was some discussion about one of the budget committee members was going to write a letter to the Pines from the budget committee and sort of outline their concerns, and not only revenues, but also the percentage participation, if you will.
Yeah, my take on this is not foreign to the budget committee or the Pines either.
Right.
So it's not like I haven't been at a public forum. I was there the night of the hearing for Hall Memorial and brought up these numbers as well. So because I'll show my hand here that I think supporting the library, which provides so many free opportunities in our, in our both our municipalities is something that as we go forward, we need to consider continuing to do that as well, and making sure that they're funded the way they should be, because they outlined for me that over the last 4 years, they could remember only one program where it was just a fee for the necessities that they needed for the little craft project. That was it. And I think it was $5 fee. So.
Great. Well, if there's nothing else on the budget,
Not by me.
Good.
You still have 49 minutes if you want.
But we still
49 minutes till you start, I think.
Yeah,
We still have
well,
the
the
new
agenda's
business.
a little,
yeah, well,
if you look at the agenda,
yeah.
It-
So
I think that
the
was,
budget starts at 7.
Yeah.
I think it was
Come on, Tim.
maritime.
I'd be happy to stay if
It
you
was-
plan to
it was-
vote.
Talk some more numbers.
I really want some votes.
Yeah,
You're making my life hard, but that's all right. Next week's
Um,
fine.
yeah, I think, we can take these home and you've emailed them to us as well.
I
so-
will email you this one. I had not prior to the meeting, but I will.
Okay.
Yep. So you have
And
that.
maybe we can fill in some blanks and bring them homework for
Good.
the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. I believe, was there any new business? Not yet.
Well, I would only suggest to ask if anybody in the internet world has questions.
Sure.
I have something for new business when we get ready.
Not that one. There's another business. We have a non-public, I believe.
I don't see that on the,
Do discussion with the chief.
good enough?
So anybody in the audience, we have, I think it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 people online. Any comments or anything about the budget? We'll give you a minute to raise your hand on there or just go right ahead and speak up. Just give me a minute. I can sign a couple things. Sometimes it takes a minute for somebody to click on there, but it looks like we're all set. So, where is my cheat sheet?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm gonna make a motion to go into non-public per RSA 91A:3, personnel, the dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or discipline of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him or her unless the employee affected has the right, number 1, has the right to a public meeting, and number 2, requests that the meeting be held in open, in which case the request shall be granted. Roll call vote.
No, Ruggles second.
Okay, Jessamine, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes. And non-public.
Will you be going back to new business after this?
New
There's nothing
business
else
is
going.
motion to adjourn.
Yeah, we don't have anything else that's
I gotta
coming up.
stretch out.
Okay, dial in.
No.
No.
This conference will now be recorded.
Microphone's on. Okay, so welcome back and make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session as they pertain to personnel.
Second.
If it's, I'm not sure if, it's not permanently, I don't think any of those things, yeah, until the matters are resolved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So moved. And we also have one other thing on the agenda for 7 PM. It's almost 7 PM, the budget. Oh, no, we did that, right?
We did
So what's the next thing on there, Joe?
that. Motion to adjourn.
Second,
All those in favor?
Me.
aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Oh, awesome. I like this.